r/ask Reddit. What's the most awkward thing you've witnessed at a high school reunion? I play in a band. We got booked by a restaurant for some class reunion. I show up to set up for the gig and it's my ducking class. I wasn't even invited. A guy from our class passed away from cancer shortly before our 20th reunion. He was never super popular but was pretty well known across our class. During the award speech section of the night, the lady, our class president, I think, was trying to get the crowd to settle down for a moment of silence. You could tell it meant a lot to her as she started getting heated. The crowd started shushing one another, and it got just quiet enough to hear somebody say, "Geez, did somebody die or something?" At my 10th, the organizers gave awards to people for various reasons. One girl from our class was given an award for having the most kids of anyone there. She'd had 4 by different guys, which was part of the announcement. The look on her face as she slinked up to the podium said it all. 10-year reunion held at a bar owned by former classmate. Started at 10 p.m. Owner told people adults over 21 only. People said they needed to bring their kids and were told no. Several people brought their babies and toddlers anyway. Parents drank like teenagers and the kids ran wild. Owner called cops who watched the parents be negligent. Parents escorted out by some cops and their kids were taken out by others. Edits for clarification. Original reunion was going to be at our high school, but less than 20 people bought tickets so it was cancelled. A lot of us live not too far and see each other out and about anyway. We had a Facebook group for the event. So when it was cancelled, the bar owner agreed to have something at his place, but we had to follow the laws since it was a bar and not a restaurant like no one under 21. He did ask people to leave with their kids and was cursed out. I heard one girl spat on him, so he called the cops. One of my friends, who was an organizer for the original event, tried watching the kids, and she pointed out their parents to the cops. When they arrived, the classmates were really drunk, to the point they couldn't have driven their kids home, and others were belligerent, hence the arrests. My wife, at the time, and I had dated all through HS and college. We married and had a child. We still had a few close friends we graduated with that were going as well. I would say there was about a 70% turnout. We had a good time and everyone got pretty drunk. We all mingled and my wife talked to a guy who she had cheated on me with right after HS. They didn't speak for more than 3 minutes. They hadn't spoke since that day almost 10 years before. We had moved past it and had a family. At least that's what I thought. Less than a month after the reunion I could tell that something wasn't right. When I asked her about it, she told me she wasn't happy and wanted a divorce. We had been together for a very long time and I was devastated. After a week of feeling like I had failed in doing everything I could to win her back, I discovered she had been having an affair with that same guy. Haven't had a high school reunion yet, but here's a fun one from my mom's 3rd reunion. She went with my dad back to her hometown for the reunion. My dad grew up in a different place, so he didn't know anybody there. Bored out of his mind, he decided to have some fun and found a way to discreetly ask someone who the biggest juvenile delinquent troublemaker was in their graduating class. Let's call him Albert Davis. So, my dad went to the name tag table and found Albert Davis's name tag. He put it on and went around saying hi to everyone just to watch their reactions, because most of them assumed that Albert Davis was in prison. My mom did not think it was funny. Had a friend do the same. Guy whose tag he took is 5 feet 8 inches. He's 6 feet 10 inches. Look on people's faces was worth it. Someone made a speech along the lines of, "Comma to all of those that felt picked on or bullied. I have something to say to you." She then started to sing Let It Go from Frozen. Was the person a bully by any random coincidence? At my 10th year HS reunion, a guy I hated and who hated me showed up and came directly toward me. Not saying anything at all to me, he then engaged the person standing right next to me on my left. He proceeded to move around the room talking to literally everyone there, only 33 people in my class, and stopping with the person on my right. Didn't so much as acknowledge my existence the whole rest of the day. It was super weird at the time, but many years later it was the most memorable thing that happened. I laugh about it now. Edited to clarify 10-year reunion. I was there with a guy friend when he saw his ex. They approached each other, him going in for a hug and her extending her hand to shake. When they each realized what the other was doing, She put her arms out for a hug, and he extended his hand to shake. By the time they touched, it was just a jumble of hands and arms weirdly touching each other. He started by saying, "So, how have you been?" I just said, "Oh, excuse me," and got the hell away from them. I went to my wife's last reunion a few months ago. The day of the reunion she got a call that it was cancelled. Apparently, 5 years earlier a classmate got creepy and stalkery with another classmate. The people organizing the reunion invited him not to show up. Then the guy posted on Facebook some vague threats. They did actually change the venue and have the reunion, but there were many people that couldn't be contacted with the updated info. My friend said her cousin's high school reunion was really awkward because this guy ran up and kissed his high school girlfriend without her asking and then got in a fist fight with her husband. Did not turn out well from what I hear. What? Oh. So it's cool making out 10 years ago, but suddenly it's creepy? Where's the line, Claire? My mom's 35th high school reunion was at a bar that I frequent quite a bit. I walked in with my mom and went up to a bartender that I know to order a drink for my mom and I. He looked up at my mother and I and immediately got super shy and weird and then said, "You're the daughter of my mom's name?" Apparently he had a huge crush on my mom in high school and my uncle beat the shit out of him because he creeped my mom out. Very awkward indeed. The captain of the football team was a pretty sad sight. He looked like hell and was so proud of sneaking booze in with his flask. I mean, it was a cash bar but the prices were reasonable. I went with my wife to her reunion. I may have had 1 or 3 before arriving, and when I got there I remembered hearing a story of a guy who was my wife's 3rd grade boyfriend. Later in life he had a rough time of things, drugs, alcohol, run-ins with the law, etc. As a joke, I wrote his name on my name badge and went about my business. Not long after, a rather strong and stocky woman turned around, looked at me, then at my name tag. When she saw the name she looked up at me, screamed excitedly as loud as I've ever heard, bear hugged me while lifting me off the ground, and bit my neck. No blood, but decent bruise. Not me but my Bill's high school reunion. A guy that was severely bullied in high school started a Facebook group to get the ball rolling on planning a high school reunion. He planned the venue, food, drinks and asked everyone pay a ticket price to cover it all. He organized the money go into a provided bank account, received 200 plus people's HS reunion dolarities and ducked off. Never to be heard of again. I've never laughed so hard in my life. That is the greatest act of high school revenge I've ever heard. Future CEO of Comcast right there. Apparently, every year, my brother's graduating class gets together at this one neighborhood bar over Thanksgiving. It's not a formal thing, but anyone can come and they all have a few drinks and it's totally normal. I literally had no idea about it, and apparently my brother didn't either, because 3 or 4 years ago we showed up to get a drink together alone and his entire graduating class of 50-ish people were there. Now, my brother was super nerdy and kind of an awkward kid, but the Marines in college turned that around and now he's an outgoing, sociable guy. Coming out of the closet once he hit 23 helped too, since he was comfortable in his own skin and it showed outwardly. Thing was, no one seemed to know he was gay, and this is small town in the Midwest, where there's nothing else to do but gossip, and since no one leaves, everyone knows everyone else. I literally spent all night cringing, while my brother dodged the advances of a bunch of girls aggressively hitting on him. Since the dating pool is the same guys they went to high school with and he was fresh meat, they were all coming on super strong and it was bad. Then everything got even worse when he told them he was living on the East Coast because he was gay and married, and his husband's job was there. It was a party with all old high school people at it. Not sure if people actually have reunions anymore, but it ended up the same effect. I met up with an ex, and an ex-buddy of mine kept saying shit about how we would be perfect back together. It was just stupid for a ton of reasons, and dude kept pushing. First, I was married. Didn't bother this dude, he said we should just bang and not tell my wife. Second, she's a lesbian. No interest in men. I knew this already and she trusted telling me even though I think she kept it private. But this guy pushed and when she said she liked girls he just told her to bring her girlfriend along. I don't even know the guy's endgame, but he looked like a total idiot and I'm pretty sure he made my ex feel pretty uncomfortable. Then I had to feel uncomfortable when I finally told him to duck off. People coming up to me asking me what's up and seem to know a whole deal about me while I have no memory of who they are at all. Probably the reunion itself. Our 10-year was in 2015. I did not attend as I got roped into helping salvage a four-wheeler from the river that a couple buddies had found. If you're interested, the guy who kept it got it running again for about $1,000 worth of parts and work hours. Score. So for about 3 or 4 months leading up to the reunion date, a few of the popular girls from our class started a Facebook group to organize everything. And it seemed to be going really well. People had moved all over the country but were saying they were moving their schedules around to attend. There was talk of renting an event hall on the fairgrounds. One girl's family now owned a local restaurant and offered to put up that venue for an after hours thing, etc. Everyone seemed really into it, and from what I could see, all seemed ready and willing to put behind them whatever petty grudges and high school BS had existed 10 years before. Comes to the morning of, and absolutely no one has committed anything. And in fact it's almost complete radio silence on the FB group. Someone suggests that since we have no place reserved, should everyone just meet at the bars downtown and go from there? So it was that exactly 7 people showed up and played oversized Jenga. They at least looked like they had a good time. But what a letdown. I was initially a bit bummed about knowing I was missing our reunion, but when I saw the turnout on Facebook when I got back into cell range, I wasn't that disappointed anymore. Mine is in a few months, but the awkwardness has already started. First, I never had any plans to go. Things like that really aren't my speed. I'm not a mingler and I always want to leave right away. Besides, I'll be away on military orders by that time anyway, so there's no way I can go. So a few weeks ago I get added to my school 10-year reunion page on FB by someone I don't recognize. Immediately think nope and leave the page. Then don't think about it again. I got a phone call a few days later from an unknown number. Not unusual since lots of people call me for work stuff. I answer and get this really enthusiastic OMG hi IT's name. How are you? I apologize and tell her I think she has the work number. I don't know anyone with that name. She says my whole name and says she got my number from friend from school. She was the class president, but I honest to God didn't remember bear. She asks about the reunion. I politely tell her I'm not going. I have other obligations. She says I don't know if that will work. I'll be in touch and hangs up. I'm like WTF, but whatever. A few days later I get added back to the same group by her. Again I leave it. Not 30 minutes later I get a phone call from her. She wants to know why I left the group again. And again I tell her I have other obligations. She told me that you don't skip reunions. We've planned this for years. You'll be there. So sarcastically I said okay, well save me a spot then, and up. A third time I'm added to this group. I'm like FFS and leave again. I get a call and this time she's calling to tell me that my ticket and dinner money are due by the end of the week. I politely remind her that I'm not going. She gets snooty and informs me that the venue and catering have already been reserved and that I will need to pay for my meal as the fund would not cover it. Once again I remind her that I was never attending and that it isn't my fault that she paid in advance without a proper count. She then told me you don't have choice. It's already paid for, so you have to be there. I said alright bye, wrong name, and hung up again. I ended up blocking her on FB, ignoring her calls, and leaving the group 2 more times when other members of the reunion committee added me back in. Too long didn't read. Class president that I don't remember won't take no for an answer. When my lady teacher came up to me, kissed me on the cheek and told me she loved me. She was very drunk. I felt very awkward. Edit. No, she wasn't hot. She was old. One spell corrected a Christmas card I gave her, and the night of the formal smelled strongly of booze. When I was like 6 I went to my dad's small town 30 reunion. His ex-fiancée, not my mom, was dressed in her prom dress and kept talking to me saying she should have been my mommy. Even then I knew that was weird. Keep your crazy in, lady. A kid in my class, 1982, was hit by a car during our junior year and wound up in a persistent vegetative state. We had heard bits and pieces of information about him in the years after, but none of it sounded reliable. He was dead. He was still in a coma. He had come out of it. He was normal. He had become a born-again Christian. He lived at home and couldn't do anything for himself. You name it. We had heard it. Every reunion. There's still misinformation being passed around about the guy. In our 10-year reunion program he was on the in memoriam page. Then it was pointed out he wasn't dead. Last fall we had our 35th reunion and he was announced along with the let's take a minute to remember our departed classmates, and then others pointed out that they thought he was still alive and living in Florida now. I don't think we'll ever find out the truth. Not that it matters, though. He was a ducking dong anyway. At our 15th they asked, then gave out prizes for the person who traveled the farthest to attend, traveled the least far to attend, had the newest car, the oldest car, the youngest child. The look on the IMZ's face when he realized what asking for the oldest child would mean. What would it mean? The person with the oldest child would also be the first one in the class to get pregnant, probably while still in high school. I'm pretty old. Getting pregnant in high school carried some social stigma back then. We also had to walk to school in the snow. It was 12 miles, uphill, both ways. 2 of our classmates passed away before our 5-year reunion. One of the girls organizing the event thought it would be a good idea to make cardboard cutouts of their faces, as if they were truly still here with us. The worst part was that people got drunk and started toting them around, taking pictures with them. It was ducked up. The lighting was dim. We were old, and some nitwit decided to let people scroll their own name tags, which then hung on lanyards at crotch level. Nobody could hear anything over the snot-nosed DJ blasting Eye of the Tiger, and trying to figure out who you were talking to was pretty awkward. I dropped out of school and received my GED. Someone invited me to the reunion for the class I would have graduated with. They gave out trophies like most of the other reunions that folks have posted already. I received an award for most successful. I guess getting a college degree and holding a job for more than a year is successful. Super awkward going up on stage for that one. And no Karen, I will not ducking build your husband's fetish site for sexual favors. For us younger folk, will there even be a physical reunion? Somebody made a graduating class of 20XX page like a year after graduation, which has like one post for a few months and then had been absolutely dead for several years now. At my 10-year reunion it was more everyone getting really pissed. At the 20th there were a few people seemingly bitter at those who had done pretty well in life. Odd really. My HS reunion the last years have gone from a reunion to just a way for the school to make $. Now everybody can enter if they buy a ticket, and you can't speak to anyone because it's dark and the music is so ducking loud. It's a goddamn teenage party. Got invited by Facebook message. We're not friends on FB. By one of the girls who made pretty much the whole time I was there a living hell. Didn't attend obviously, because everyone I wanted to keep in touch with I did. But got an "oh sorry we missed you hun. We should do lunch soon" message. But why? Selective memory. Or nothing. And by nothing, I mean the awkward feeling of being one of the 12 who showed up. I didn't go to my 10-year, but drama unfolded on Facebook in the planning stages. One guy decided the official reunion wasn't good enough, so he planned a competing reunion and tried to siphon people off of the other. When people started posting confusion to the event page, the argument between the two reunion leaders went something like 80 comments deep. The best part is, the then current principal, who'd been a popular teacher when we were students, actually had to step in and mediate. It was ducking hysterical. I had been on the fence about going since I stayed close to my good friends in high school and Facebook kept me informed about anyone else I cared to know about. But that whole thing sealed it for me. Edit. I didn't go. It's true what they say about 10-year reunions. Nobody has changed. We had a 1-year reunion. It was basically we're all home from college. Why not all go out? We were there no longer than 20 minutes and one of the guys turned to one of the girls and said, "Nice to see you're still a dunt." Shit hit the fan after that. It was not out of the blue whatsoever. The reaction was more of "that was fast." I went to my 40th. I now live on the west coast and the school is in NJ. Met up with a sweet girl that I had dated off and on in school but nothing more. She is widowed. After a few she asked me why we never had sex and what? It was a come on that I did not follow up on. I went to mine with my roommate. Everyone thought we were married or something. I am male, she's female. When we started dancing with other PPL, girls would look over my shoulder at my roommate and then slowly dance away from me. It wasn't like I was getting all close or anything. On the flip side, this one dude just stopped dancing with my roommate and left without a word. When she came to tell me about what happened, we both turned to see that he was making a beeline for the exit. After telling this to a mutual friend, it was pointed out that we probably looked like swingers. LOL, we still laugh about it to this day. Probably what I said to a guy I barely even talked to. He was lanky, has jacked teeth and bad acne. Not why I didn't talk to him. We just never had a lot of the same classes and were in different activities. He came up to me at the reunion, said who he was and told me I looked great. I replied, "You do too. I barely recognized you. You changed so much." The second it was out of my mouth I was apologizing. I felt so bad, but he laughed it off. Graduated in 1962. Never went to any of the reunions. Didn't even know about them until the 50th. In 2012, I had been in odd places in the world, encountered a classmate 50 years later. He gave me the roster. Most of the people who went had never left the small farm town. Of the people who could be tracked, over half the males were dead. Vietnam, drugs, AIDS, and all the random bullshit. I was nobody in high school, but I still seem to be on the green side of the dirt. Not my high school reunion but my mother's. She walked in and was saying hi to a few of the women when one of them dragged their husband over. In a very loud voice she said, "You remember pulsing cat butts, mom? Her brother was the one that fired you last month." My mom ended up avoiding them the rest of the night. I heard that a classmate set the venue on fire. Glad I didn't go. 5-year reunion. Took my husband, guy who liked me freshman year, then never talked civilly to me again, told me he was going to die alone and unloved behind a dumpster. Note, he had been a popular football player. I was a social outcast. Some older woman stole the name tag for exchange student Kim Fung Toy and then had a heart attack. Actually, my high school reunion was the awkward thing. I didn't attend, and neither did very many people. Everyone pretty much hated each other, and from what I heard, only one clique turned up, with the odd person from one or two others making an appearance. Even though I didn't go, it was still awkward when a girl who severely bullied me at school tried adding me on Facebook to invite me to the reunion. She still hates me to this day, so I don't even know why she would have wanted me there, let alone directly contact me. Happened to, not witnessed. I walked right past the guy I dated for 2.5 years. He'd gained so much weight I didn't recognize him. I went to my girlfriend's high school reunion with her. Now we're lesbians, so I was expecting someone to give weird looks, but I wasn't anything that bad. It got much worse. When we get to the reunion, we're having a nice time. People recognize my girlfriend. She was much more popular than me back in high school. No one really cares that we're gay until we meet Beach Lady and her husband. When I say that I'm her partner, the lady asks, "So like business partner?" Since my girlfriend has a good sense of humor, she laughs and tells her that no, we're dating. What does she do? Not apologize or just not mention it. Instead she turns to her husband and says in Spanish, "I knew there was something wrong with her." My girlfriend is pale but she's Mexican and speaks fluent Spanish, so she tells the lady to duck off. At the awards portion of the night, we had pretty much forgotten the beach. Turns out the beach had been the organizer of the event and was doing the awards. We laugh at some of the humorous awards and then we get to my girlfriend's award. Can you guess what it was? Biggest dyke. Long story made short, I am escorted out by security, leaving the beach with a bloody nose. Too long, didn't read. Beach is offended by my lesbian relationship and gives my girlfriend the biggest dyke award, and I beat the beach up. At my 10-year reunion, one of the good-looking but not very bright guys from my class argued WTH me that we had had sex in HS. After 10 minutes of me trying to explain to him that we had never had sex, I realized that he was thinking of my friend's sister, not me. He then was like, "Well, we can fix that." I declined and left. He went 10 years not knowing who he had sex with. I'm not touching that with someone else's vag, much less me own. Oh, my time to shine. The beautiful cheerleader twins got so wasted at our 20th reunion, one of them puked on the table and the other got so drunk she fell out of the photo booth. Their daughters had to carry them out. Went to wife's reunion. Introduced myself as George Michael. I was only there 3 weeks. I was bullied so I left, but invited me. Some people actually bought the story. Had a 10-year reunion last year. Things were going well at this low-key local bar. Things shut down about 1 AM, however everyone is having fun and doesn't want to shut it down. Turns out the old school captain, smart dude, not particularly socially intelligent though, says let's head back to his place to kick on. Tells the whole grade, 150 people, to drink what they want, including his dad's blue label scotch, which he thought was the cheap stuff. Ended up costing him several thousand, and apparently his dad, rather understandably, wasn't stoked. Feel bad for him, but I have to laugh. I remember even trying to warn him that night, but he was riding the social popularity endorphin high, I suspect. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.